Welcome, everyone, to Around the Maritimes, the official English language podcast of the Quebec Maritime Junior Hockey League, presented by Carlsberg. And would you believe, to quote Maxwell Smart, that we are this close to the QMJHL playoffs? And we are breaking everything down with Jamie Tozer as we are entering the final weekend of the season. But the big guest this week, and again, I have to thank Raphael Doucette, league office, for helping to set this up and make this a bucket list interview for me, to have a chance to sit down and have a conversation with the flower, Marc-Andre Fleury. And again, thank you to Fleury for taking the time out of his busy schedule with the Minnesota Wild. We recorded it last week during the trade deadline, so I know there was some stuff going on with the Wild, but to sit down and talk junior hockey with Mr. Fleury as he is inducted into the Quebec Maritime Junior Hockey League Hall of Fame. That is going to be a tremendous ceremony coming up, and a tremendous honor for Flower to be the first member of the Cape Breton Screaming Eagles or Eagles, whichever you prefer. We don't discriminate, to go into the Hall of Fame. That's right. He is the first person wearing an Eagles jersey to be recognized in that spot. But for me, again, with Marc-Andre Fleury, of course, the legend on the ice is one thing, but the legend off the ice is quite the other. And I, I I did not bring it up with him in the interview, but for me, because I wasn't sure how much of a wrestling guy he was. Okay, look, if you're listening to this, if you've listened to the last two seasons of this, you understand that I'm a big fan of the art of professional wrestling. Marc-Andre Fleury is the professional wrestler, is the hockey equivalent, should say, not the of professional wrestling's late great Owen Hart. And the reason I say that is because both men are tremendous and spectacular at what they do. They're world class, okay, best in the world. But more than that, they're known for being better people. They were known for always having a smile on their face, known for no one able to say a bad word about them. And the thing that solidified it for me is the fact that they were both legendary pranksters. And I talk about Fleury and Owen Hart in the same vein, and I think it's the comparison that I can make there. Again, I didn't know how much of a wrestling fan Marc-Andre Fleury was, but for those of you that understand that reference, it's meant with the highest amount of praise to say that. But to talk about his play on the ice, we talk about some Stanley Cups, an Olympic gold medal, a Vezna, all kinds of awards in the queue, opportunities at the World Juniors, and being able to finally win the big one, and also being the guy of all the goalies, and I don't care what sport, I don't care what level, every goalie in any type of sport where you have to be a netminder has had in their cadence a countdown at a practice, at a scrimmage, at on the street, on the field, on the pitch, anywhere where they had to make a save to win the championship. Well, Marc-Andre Fleury lived that, and we get the chance to talk to him about that upcoming here on Around the Maritime. But first, Jamie Tozer, Station Nation, we are getting ourselves set for the first round of the QMJHL playoffs. Jamie Tozer, Station Nation, joining us here on Around the Maritimes. And Jamie, it got interesting up in St. John. Wrestling night was 2 weeks ago, but the fight heard around the Q took place with Owen Brisson and Radkoff. And again, both getting 5-game suspensions, and that's kind of caused the uproar. But when we look at the suspension panel, that's in the rules, and that's what it is. It's a 5-game automatic for goalie fights in a league that is trying to curb that aspect of the game.
Yeah, and I think the craziest part about that fight to me was that, I think a lot of people who probably saw that fight probably assumed that this was like a really rough game and there had been a lot of lead up to this, and this was just kind of the ultimate moment. And it's kind of the exact opposite, when it was like a really mild game, and like a pretty innocent looking play where Alexei Gauthier just kind of trying to poke a puck loose on Bresson's glove, and Brisson obviously didn't like that and threw a couple of shots at his blocker at Gauthier. But beyond that, like there wasn't much lead up, and then all of a sudden Radkov's at his own blue line, and Brisson goes out to the neutral zone, and they start throwing him in what was a impressive fight, I guess, for two guys who I would assume probably haven't fought a lot, if at all, in their career. Extremely entertaining night at TD Station. I know a lot of people were really, really fired up from that moment. And yeah, like you said, I know there's maybe some confusion, I guess, around that suspension. I mean, that's not really a judgment call by the league. That does seem to be pretty much black and white in the rule book, that it is a 5-game suspension. And you do want to keep those goaltenders safe in moments like that, and not to turn this conversation dark, but I went back and watched the highlights of the Jonathan Waugh incident from way back, and I mean, you certainly don't want to have another incident like that coming back to the league. So you do have to respect and play it safe with some of these goalies sometimes, because these aren't players who are too accustomed to fighting like a lot of the skaters would be.
Yeah, it's not it's very rare, especially fights themselves were rare in this league, even leading up to this rule.
Mm.
I think it was one in every 87 or games had a fight. So it was already kind of curb built, but the idea of a goalie fight was almost as rare as a goalie goal in this league. I do want we'll stick with St. John. Of course, they made the coaching move there. What have you liked out of the team? I know they're sitting eight. Ryan Casey comes in. Darren Burns is now an assistant as well over the last handful of games.
Yeah, and if you look purely at the numbers, I mean, the numbers aren't a whole lot better, unfortunately, for St. John. I mean, they're still struggling to pick up wins. But what I like about St. John is that most of the games under Casey and under Burns, like they've been in them. Even for some of the losses that have been a bit more lopsided, like the one against Halifax on Saturday, like the one against Moncton the week before, that ended lopsided. Like that game in Moncton that St. John lost 6-3. They were up 3-0 at one point in that game. The game against Halifax, that was a close game until the third period. So they're very much in these games. And I think that this is kind of what we thought that the Sea Dogs would be a little bit more like this season, where they're playing hard, they're in these games, but they just can't quite pull a lot of them out, which is pretty custom for a young team, right? We didn't see a lot of that a lot this season, where it's felt like they were out of it the second the puck dropped. A lot of games or fell apart really quickly. At some point, it feels like they're just way more in the games, way more engaged, just able to match their opponents a little bit more. I think you're seeing individual players as well kind of have a little bit more stronger performances. I think Everett Baldwin, for example, has really picked up his game. Not that it was poor before that, but he's seemed to have found another gear. Some of the top line forwards like Olivier Grew, Alexander Donovan, like these guys have really been connecting. Angelo Fullerton, who's been a great story this season, it seems like he's really found another gear in these past few weeks. So it does feel like St. John, their big players have managed to kind of step that up here late in the season. Unfortunately, it's a little bit too late for them to really make much noise in the standings. But again, they're playing hard against really strong teams, so maybe they can at least make a first round playoff series a bit interesting.
You talked about them being up 3-0 on Moncton. Right now, we're going to look at the top half of the bracket, okay? Because it is Moncton coming in at 100 points, Chicoutimi at 99. Who will St. John be playing in that first round?
I'm thinking most of our listeners to this podcast are probably Wildcats fans, so I'll pick Moncton. When I go on the Chicoutimi radio, I'll pick Chicoutimi. So because I do think it's that close. Like I think it's almost a coin flip at this point. But I think Moncton's put themselves in a really good position to clinch first overall. That was I think their season really came down to this weekend in Newfoundland. Picked up a couple huge wins there. And obviously, though, over the past few weeks, they knew that they needed some luck, and Chicoutimi was going to have to make a mistake along the way, and they got that. And then they did what they needed to do in Newfoundland. And full credit to the Wildcats. I know they had a bit of a travel adventure getting to Newfoundland on the weekend, so full credit to them. Coming away with 2 wins too. So I think it's going to be I'll be surprised if the Wildcats don't pull it off, but at the same time, they've got a challenging couple games here. These aren't going to be soft games against Charlottetown, so we'll see what happens.
That I think, and again, now Charlottetown, Donald Hickey played outstanding the 2 wins that we saw earlier this month. Chicoutimi is playing Quebec. Chicoutimi is 6-0 on the year against Quebec. There's only one other team that has an 8-0-0 record against a team this year. Are you able to tell me who they are?
Oh man, an 8-0-0 record against the
Yeah,
team this year.
there's only one team, and we've already talked about them for the first half of this podcast, and they were brought up as well.
This is bad. I'm guessing it's St. John.
That's right. that is correct. The Newfoundland Regiment are the
Well,
only
it's
team to
not.
have an 8.
Oh yes.
Yeah,
There you go. I knew it wasn't
that
Moncton, so yeah, that's true.
yeah. So, but I'm just looking at that, and I think we are going to have Moncton Charlottetown on Eastlink. I'm very interested to see what happens in this game here. It's tough. Chicoutimi, it's tough to beat a team 8 straight regulation wins. So I have a feeling that Quebec may be able to pull off one of these, and that might get the Wildcats that spot. But at the same time, the odds seem to be in the favor of Chicoutimi that they have a coin flip right now, and I'd say that's the best way to go in to the final week of the season.
Absolutely, and I think the interesting part for me is that these games have meaning for Quebec and Charlottetown. So it's not like they're just going to go into it, just not wanting to get hurt and just setting themselves up for the playoffs. Well, like these games, like they're still fighting for positioning too. So that's kind of the interesting part to me. I've looked at the standings the past couple of days, and I think the wild card situation, I think, is just what happens Friday. And then, if we'll see kind of what Charlottetown or what any of the teams really end up looking like given the results. So the games on Saturday might end up having a lot of meaning for some teams. They might not have for others. So that could kind of impact stuff too. But, the games on Friday should be pretty electric. I can't wait.
Yeah, very excited to be doing some scoreboard watching as we go into that final week. Yeah, so we do have Newfoundland right now currently set up against Cape Breton. Cape Breton still could get that 5th spot if Chicoutimi was to knock off Quebec twice, and Cape Breton was to get a chance to was able to beat St. John. That would have them lined up potentially against Charlottetown. Cape Breton, if you're the Eagles, I know you've got a lot of injuries. I know you're having issues putting the puck in the net. Are you looking at a team in Newfoundland you want to take on, or do you take your shot at taking on Charlottetown right now, who are probably one of the hotter teams in this division?
I think Charlottetown to me is one of the bigger. I don't want to call them an unknown, but because I think we have a good idea of what they are. But to me, they're one of the teams that I wouldn't want to play, just because of Ivan Ryabkin. Like I think he's kind of the big. He could almost carry a series by himself here and really drag the Islanders deep into the playoffs. I think there's a chance that could happen. So to me, that is a tough series. I think with Newfoundland, you kind of know a little bit more of what you're getting. But Newfoundland, to me, kind of plays the ideal playoff hockey style. They play the hard-nosed style that typically you see in the playoffs, and you'll see a lot of teams have success with. The thing about Newfoundland, and I saw this again, and I'm a little bit surprised that they haven't been able to kind of curb this season. We saw it again this weekend against Moncton, is just they have struggled to really find that line where there's physical play, but there's also taking penalties from that physical play, and they've really struggled with penalties. We saw that again against Moncton. I was watching the game, and Newfoundland scored to get back into it, and then they took an undisciplined penalty and ended all the momentum. And something like that in a playoff game could really be detrimental to your entire season. So Newfoundland, I think I wouldn't. I know they play such a hard nosed style that I think um, will blend well for playoff hockey. But if you can get them to take penalties, you might be able to have success against them. So I do think Charlottetown is probably a little bit scarier to me, just because they're more of a wild card team. But boy, those are going to be some tight series. I mean that like Newfoundland and Charlottetown. Those are two teams that really have potential not to look ahead, but they have potential to really complicate some things in the second round.
Yeah, I've been singing the praises of Charlottetown for the last little bit, especially, we had Nathan Leak last week, and he's at 47 goals right now, three away from 50. And I know it's a tough challenge against Moncton. However, there's been teams that have been having some success getting into the slot against the Wildcats, and Leak is a
Mhm.
guy that, as a power forward, can make things happen, especially with Ryabkin. And the word around Charlottetown is, if you think Ryabkin's good now, wait until he's got his second level in the playoffs.
Yeah, 100%. And you saw that a little bit against St. John on the weekend. We saw some more of the Islanders' depth up front. I mean, this is a really really strong Charlottetown team, and um, I mean Ryabkin, like I said, like this is a guy who could really take over a playoff series on his own. And his numbers now, I feel like he's almost flown under the radar a little bit, which is crazy to say. Like look at his numbers now, and they're pretty crazy. So I can only imagine what level he could reach in the playoffs.
Take a look at Halifax. They've won their last four, two against St. John, two against Cape Breton, who have been struggling, but not with they're without Brisson for until the start of the playoffs. But again, Ole Kuliakvin, Yasu Mensinen, Quinn Kennedy, these kids have been making some incredible plays down the stretch. And again, there's highlight ability on the Halifax Mooseheads. I don't think highlight ability wins you playoff games, but they still are very exciting to watch.
Yeah, and then, of late they've reminded me a little bit of St. John, like I mentioned, where like their big players have really been carrying them of late, and I feel like kind of the same way with Halifax. And I thought that their wins in St. John were pretty impressive, to be honest. You saw a young team not really go overboard emotionally when they saw their goaltender get into a fight and really stay composed. And then that game on Saturday, like a really professional win to kind of wait for your chances to strike and take over the game in that third period. So um, they're a team that, just like St. John, I think that they've got a big challenge in the first round of the playoffs. But at the same time, I think that they're a team that, again, like St. John, they have the ability to at least make things a little interesting if they can kind of get things clicking all at once. So we'll kind of see how that plays out. I do think Bresson being gone a little bit longer in that playoffs is less than ideal, and that's probably something that the whole goaltending fight situation, as entertaining as it was to see, it's probably not the greatest time of year for that to happen. So that is a significant loss for them, but certainly a good chance for Gillum Circa to get some experience at least.
And the most exciting two games on the schedule this weekend, Baie-Comeau and Rimouski. The battle for that first overall, which Halifax has for Rimouski, and
Good
yeah,
point.
both those teams are gonna finish off the season. There will be no playoffs for either of them, and maybe Rimouski finds a win on home ice to wrap up the year.
And I mean, like pretty, not to put down Baie-Comeau anymore in the season they've had, but I mean, it really speaks to how rough of a season they've had when Rimouski's lost 24 games in a row and they're still 3 points back of Rimouski. So I mean, that just speaks to the really trying season that the Drakkar have had, and hopefully brighter days are ahead for them, and the Oceanic too. Hopefully I mean, I don't think. I'm pretty sure the league record is 27, so 27 straight losses. So they're not going to be able to reach that. But I mean, 26, if they do lose both games this weekend, 26 straight losses at the end of the year is pretty much as rough as it gets.
Yeah. Now, you were up in Amherst for some MHL playoffs. Give us a rundown of what the atmosphere was like in Amherst at the Jungle. We've been there with Eastlink for playoff games. Wild, electric atmosphere, old school hockey barn, just what you want to see here in the Maritimes.
Yeah, and it was awesome. And we were talking a little bit before the show. I don't think I've been to Amherst since before COVID, so it'd been 5, 6, 7 years since I've been to Amherst Stadium, and to be completely honest, I underestimated Ramblers Nation a little bit. I headed up there. I got there around 6. I wasn't expecting a big crowd, to be honest. I got there, I could hardly get a parking spot, and I go in, and the rink's already half full, an hour before puck drop. So, pretty close to packed barn. Such an awesome, like that's literally a barn. Such an awesome building to see a game in, an awesome building to watch like a playoff game in. And this is a really, for the fans who don't follow the MHL, I mean, this is a really fun series between Amherst and Summerside. This is like the Summerside being essentially the Memorial Cup host against an Amherst team that really didn't finish too far below them in the standings. So this is a really fun first round series. This tied 1-1 now. So definitely going to be keeping an eye on that, and hopefully get back to Amherst at some point this season, because the atmosphere is just incredible.
Been tight up and down the MHL this year. Your thoughts on the play, because again, the spill off from the free agents that came into the queue this year and them entering into the Maritime Hockey League and Junior A has really risen the play of that league through the regular season. And we've always said MHL playoffs is a different beast.
Yeah, I mean that's a really good point, and something that's not really been talked about a lot is kind of, you have all of these players entering the queue who wouldn't have otherwise in previous seasons, now coming in and obviously bumping a lot of guys down further. So yeah, it totally makes sense that the caliber of play is higher in the MHL now. And yeah, I mean, I would say like that was the game I saw on Monday night was probably some of the best junior A hockey I've seen, certainly in the Maritimes. And you're already seeing it with some of the playoff results so far. Amherst versus Summerside, that's 1 versus 4. Summerside's number 1, and that series is 1-1. You're seeing again another tight series where Grand Falls, I believe, is the 1 seed in the North Division against Chaleur. And that series is 2-0 Chaleur, which is technically be an upset, but at the same time, I mean, these standings are so close that, I mean, they're technically an upset, but I mean, they're not much of an upset. So really fun playoffs so far.
And finally, you're leading into Marc-Andre Fleury, who will be on the pod coming up.
Wow.
Favorite Fleury memory?
Was not expecting that question.
Yeah.
I remember the Penguins winning their first Stanley Cup, and him making that save in the final seconds when he dove across the crease. And I remember watching that game. I think I was in grade 11 or 12. I remember watching that at a friend's house. My friend had gone to sleep for some reason. He missed the entire thing. But I appreciate him allowing me to watch that game in his house, because I particularly remember that save, which was, I mean, it's pretty rare that you get to see a Stanley Cup winning save in a moment like that.
Yeah. No, we got to chat about that. But Jamie, we got to chat about the queue. Appreciate your time, and hopefully we see you in the rink in either Halifax or maybe along the lines of the Maritime Hockey League. We're going to be catching ourselves around the ice soon enough.
Awesome. Thanks, man.
Okay, we're talking about Eastlink here. We're talking about bundling. If you aren't bundling your internet and your cell phone and your TV and your home security, shame. Ding ding. Shame. Ding ding. Shame. We talk about the perfect pair a lot on here. It is unlimited mobile as well, gig internet, and that's the perfect pair with Eastlink. And don't forget, when you go in to the store and you chat with them on 1-888-345-1111, eastlink.ca, you do the online chat with our friendly representatives who are friendly in store, on the phone, and online. Don't forget to bring up the TV and say, yeah, no, I saw you got basic TV plus Prime Sports. Is that correct? And they'll say it certainly is. The Prime Sports package gives you your sports nets, your TSNs, and the Golf Channel, just in time for Masters. Just in time for Masters, folks. And you got that login with the TV, the TiVo stream. You can watch the TSN and Sportsnet on the go with your Eastlink package. And again, because you got unlimited internet or unlimited mobile, there you go, unlimited data on the cell phone. You have a good data plan on that, you can watch it anywhere, right? Make sure you go to eastlink.ca to check out all the terms and conditions, get all that taken care of, but you get yourself hooked up with Eastlink, proudly Atlantic Canadian company, and you don't miss a moment of the action. Marc-Andre Fleury joining us here on the Around the Maritime podcast presented by Carlsberg, and it's a big honor to have you on. But the honor goes to all to you. It's you're the first Eagle to have your jersey retired. It's only fitting that you're the first Eagle to go in to the Hall of Fame for the Quebec Maritime Junior Hockey League. What does it mean for you to have that honor and to go into the Hall of Fame?
Well, thank you. Thanks for saying that. It is a huge honor. I feel very fortunate. I get to be drafted by Cape Breton and play my junior there. I've met a lot of great people, and um, I don't know. I'm very thankful for my time there.
Well, it's we're thankful that you came to the island, but to go back to your minor hockey roots, I'd love to know what was your first impressions and what's some of your first memories with the game?
Um, I think from getting drafted, I wasn't quite sure where Sydney was in Cape Breton, and also that was kind of a little bit eye-opening. Leaving my home and going to an English city also was a big change for me. Um, but the welcome, from my coach Pascal Vincent was awesome to me, and made the transition easier, um, and the team got me an awesome billet to a family with the Hawkins, which I kept in touch, and they treated me so well over the years, and yeah, very thankful for that too.
Well, you talk about the Hawkins. I believe now Marco Marciano was your goalie coach. Did he live with
But
Marco was your goalie coach,
yeah,
correct?
he
Did
was
he
like
live
my last year when I came back from Pittsburgh.
did he live with the Hawkins as well?
He did, yeah.
Would
So Marco wasn't there. My first few years was François
mhm.
Latreille, who was like in and out of Sydney, and then I went to play in Pittsburgh when I was 18 and came back in that spring. And while I was gone, Marco stayed with my billet, but I forgot if we lived together. I think he was like he moved out to somewhere else when I came back.
It would be
Changed that.
interesting. It would be interesting being full time, going home, getting your coaching, and then going back and hearing just a
Yeah.
little bit more goalie talk around the kitchen table, eh?
Yeah, but Michael's awesome too. Great guy, and very passionate about the game. And I'm very happy for him that he got that job here now in Montreal.
Yeah, a long road there to get to Montreal, but to go back to that long road in Cape Breton, you talked about the Hawkins. Who were some, and as well Pascal, who are some of the names that jump into your memory when you think about Cape Breton?
Jeez, that's a good question. I think um, the players first, right? Because we spent so much time together, so many hours on the bus, and um, like a guy like Dominic Noel, which was driving me to the games. Um, you always had the tune blastings and putting the window down, waking up in the winter when it was a little chillier, and the way he was getting ready for games, and to this day, oh, last season, I was still playing those songs, before, going to the rink and stuff. And um, he always made the games a big deal and always getting ready, and I don't know. He was a great model for me, at a young age, and
Mm,
well, we had. I don't know. I don't want to leave anybody out, but we had
yeah.
such a good group of guys. We had a great bunch of guys, and a lot of laugh. So um,
You won
yeah,
a
I
lot.
don't know. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, you won a lot of games as well, though, Mark. You guys won a lot of games, and what can you say about the fan support that you had in Cape Breton?
Yeah, it was great. Like for me, it was the first time. You know, going to play in a bigger building and all that, and that was such a big deal. And the building was always pretty full, right? And I feel like the people, like the young, everybody around town, they would follow the Eagles and check on us, see how we're doing, and you could see the pride with them, and how much they cared, and meeting people on the road, on outside, outside the rink and stuff, and signed my first few autographs, and stuff like that. So that was definitely eye opening, but made it so much fun to play and try to make it good for the fans.
When it comes to your Q career, what's the biggest lesson and what's the biggest thing you learned about yourself and learned about the game from your 4 years in the Q?
Ooh, um, I think one thing about the Q, which is good, is it prepares you. It prepared me for my pro career, right? Like you play a lot of games, you travel a bunch. You have to find ways to perform and to feel good, even though you're sick, you're tired, whatever it is, right? And yes, I thought it was you're practicing every day too, so pretty much. So it was yeah, I thought that was a big help for me, to get ready for the NHL.
Oh, you're back and forth between the NHL and Cape Breton, and Wilkes-Barre as well in that run to
Yeah.
start things off. Um, your memories about being an 18-year-old in the National Hockey League. You can't even drink in 9 out of 10 provinces at that point, and you're strapping on pads going into the show.
Yeah, yeah, that was a little surreal. Maybe I didn't expect sticking around in Pittsburgh, but going to camp, I was like so happy to get drafted and that a team took a chance on me. And but I don't know, that wasn't it. My dream was always to play in the NHL and win a cup. And that's all I had in mind. When I went to camp, just trying to do my best, try to leave a good impression. And hopefully the staff were happy with me, or for drafting me first and stuff. So but camp went pretty well. And yeah, so it was so cool to get to play first few games in the NHL.
Well, again, and you talk about wanting to do your best. You can't do much better than first overall. Was there a point in that season where you felt like that was realistic? And talk about the work that went into becoming a first overall pick.
Yeah. Uh, like I said, to me, the draft wasn't the draft order where I got picked didn't
Mm.
matter too much. I just wanted to have a chance to play in the NHL. And it didn't matter where I was good in draft. But I think for me, the World Juniors that year in Halifax was a big help. Um, Maybe to be seen by more scouts and things like that. But yeah, things went pretty well in the tournament, and then helped me out for the draft.
Well, things went pretty well in your NHL career. Like we could, I mean, we could talk all day about the NHL career because there's 3 cups, an Olympic gold medal. There's plenty of things to go on about a Vezna. Um, but I would really like to talk about that first cup with Sidney Crosby. And really, I know for Nova Scotia, there was a lot of people talking about how excited they were to see Crosby win a cup. In Cape Breton, everyone was so excited to talk about how Fleury won the big one, man. What was it like for you to have, I guess, that redemption moment and winning that first Stanley Cup?
Yeah, like I said, I wanted to play in the NHL and win a cup, right? So that was
Mm.
definitely the goal. And in Pittsburgh, when I got there, even when Sid got there, in Malkin, right? Like we weren't winning, we weren't doing so well, for a few years, but slowly, like these guys started coming, right? Then Jordan Stahl, Max, Talbot. So the younger guys, got a little more experience with time, um, and then we start winning more games and more games, and then went to the finals in '08 and got to win it in '09, and also that was. Just to see the evolution and to do it with guys that you've been through tough times, you've lost together, but then you find a way to turn around and start winning. And no, it was so cool.
When you think about championship teams, what's the biggest characteristic that jumps out to your mind?
I think the team chemistry, playing for each other. um, Obviously you need to stay healthy, you need a little bit of luck maybe sometimes. um, but I think if everybody knows the role and can do the role, like they should, then that's always a big plus.
And I don't care the sport. If there's a goalie involved, every one of them have over their life, a million times in their head, have had that countdown of a clock run down in their head saying 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 to make the save to win the championship. Out of all the goalies in the world, you pulled it off. You have the
Yeah.
actual experience. It's not just practice. It's not street hockey. It's not scrimmage. How often would you think about that save, and what goes through your mind when you think about that moment or when it gets brought up?
Yeah. So I don't know. I got to see it a few times over the years, and all. It's still so cool, so good memories, right? Some of the best in my life, right? And like you said, growing up, I did the same too, like playing mini sticks or street hockey, and like making that big save at the end of the game, to win the cup, right? At game 7, so to actually get to dive there in the final seconds and make a save to win, that was yeah, pretty crazy.
And again, in your Pittsburgh, there's one thing I would like to wrap up the Pittsburgh Chronicles, and I know we'll talk about Hockey Canada with Sid as well. When you're playing in Cape Breton back in 2000 to 2004, there was a lot of hype on Sidney Crosby. Do you remember kind of the moment where Sidney Crosby entered your radar as a guy to watch and a guy to kind of keep an eye on?
Um, yeah, obviously you hear about him right on TV and
Mhm.
stuff. I think the first time we played each other, I think we played when I came back from Pittsburgh, and we played in Rimouski. Yeah, and I think that was my only loss that that when I came back. So that was a little tough, but he liked to make sure I remember that. So he
He
told me a few times
he
that.
reminds you of that one night in Rimouski, eh?
Yeah, yeah. Well, I
That's
get to
why.
tell him I stopped him on a breakaway though, so
Okay.
that was good.
You've got your comeback on that. You've got your comeback.
Yeah.
Um, you go from, again, building a team in Pittsburgh, being part of that foundation, to building an being part of an expansion team and a pretty incredible one with Vegas. What's some of your memories, and what do you think about when Vegas gets brought up?
Yeah, I think first for me it was hard leaving Pittsburgh, right? I always thought of myself, I had so many good friends on the team, and thought I would, uh, finish my career there and stuff. But at the same time, I'm very grateful for the opportunity, right? I got maybe a little second wind in my career, and got to be part of it, and um, yeah, it's like you start from scratch a bit, right? Like there's try to build a good locker room, try to get guys close quickly, right? Because you get a bunch of guys coming from different teams, and um, try to build some character, right? Some a good team identity, right? So um, yeah, it was definitely it was so fun. Like nobody knew. Um, how it was going to be, to play hockey in Vegas, and if the fans going to want to come to the game, if they're going to like it, and it turned out for the best. The support there was amazing, and um, yeah, it was a lot of fun.
Well, there might be some home ice advantage in Vegas for teams coming in from, I don't know, Winnipeg or around some cold spots in the middle of February. Let's. I want to talk about the Vezna, and especially with it being near the end of the career. How special was it for you to be awarded that trophy, and how special was that season to have really be at the capper of the NHL seasons of you're the top goalie in the league.
Yeah, that was. I don't know. I never had maybe the best numbers around. I feel like I was maybe trying to find ways to win games, right? But for that season, it seemed like everything kind of clicked, um, and that we're winning games. The numbers were okay, and um, but just again, just a huge honor to have won and to have that little trophy on my bookshelf. So, but I think the team in front of me, right, obviously helps a lot, right? When the team plays well and don't give up all the crazy chances, that makes the goalie look better, right? And so I'm thankful for them too.
All right, folks, it's that time that we talk about Eastlink, and we talked about defense. And what do you get with defense? You get security. Did you know Eastlink's internet plans include internet security for free? That's something you're not going to find with the competition. What does that mean? You don't have to be a tech expert to stay protected from online threats. Aero Secure continuously monitors and protects the devices connected to your home network to keep your household safe online. And if you want more control, you got it. Using the Aero app, you can set up additional features like app blocking, content filters, and more. Eastlink has you and your home covered with reliable and secure Wi-Fi for no additional cost. All part of the Wi-Fi guarantee. So what are you waiting for? See online or in store for details. 1-888-345-1111, eastlink.ca, or go in store. And this, listen, if you ever see me doing this around a game, that's me trying to tell the truck, hey, turn my microphone on. I'm trying to talk to you. So if you ever see me doing that, that's what it means. I need to make sure that they're my security blanket, right? This is my security blanket. Internet security for free with Eastlink. To wrap things up, you're got a chance with Hockey Canada at the World Championships, but then you're reunited with the Penguins for that preseason game. You sign your tryout contract. How special? And I guess was there an importance to going back and putting a cap on the career in Pittsburgh?
Uh, yeah. Cal Dubas like asked me, I think in June or May or June, and then at that point, I was just finishing the season, banged up, a little sore and stuff, and uh, I was just thinking like I'm not training all summer again, but then he reached out again, I think in August, and I was like, yeah, I think that could be fun, and just to play with the guys, and it was. I'm glad I went. It was so nice of them to do this for me um, and allow me to come and put the jersey back on again, get the yellow pads out, and spend some time with play with some good friends and even practice. I love practice with them. The day before, the morning of the game, and um, that was one of my favorite part. Just to be on the ice with them and um, like old times. Yeah,
Well, and you got one final chance to prank everyone. I want to
yeah.
know when did this? Okay, so I heard in Cape Breton the pranking wasn't there. When did the prankster reputation and when did that kind of enter the game? Because you're going to the Q Hall of Fame. I'm assuming you'll be on Front Street in the NHL Hall of Fame in the near future. But you're a first ballot prankster Hall of Famer. When did that start for you?
I think when I got to Pittsburgh, that was my roommate was Marc Bergevin, who liked doing it and like screwing with people a bit, So he was a good teacher. But I feel like back then, though, nobody was safe at any day, And it wasn't just Mark doing things, I feel like older guys loved. I don't know. They like doing this stuff, and many guys did, and I don't know. I thought it was funny and made me laugh, and I just kept doing it. I just think it was like. I don't know. It's kind of sad that it kind of went away slowly, But like I wasn't the only one. Everybody was doing it, So that's why I just
Who's
just
what
old.
do you have a favorite one that you can talk about?
I can talk. Yeah, I think the one on Brendan's way in Colorado. He was at practice. He was playing with me in Minnesota, and then told me I was. He said on TV that I was 50 years old. I wasn't bad for a 50-year-old goalie. He said that twice, so then I had to get him back. And then he got traded to Colorado. So then one morning he was practicing, and we just got in from another town. So I went to Home Depot early in the morning and with an Uber, and then got a jack, got some dirt and flowers, and went to his cars and took his wheels off and put a little garden on his hood. So I had a little laugh at that.
Who
I had a little
who
bit of help though. A couple of guys helped me out too.
whoever got you back the best? Has anyone gotten you back the best?
Yeah, some guys did. I think Sid always does a little something for me
Mm.
once in a while. Keep me on my toes. Like one
Okay.
time you put like when they're just married, all the cans under your car. We were
Mhm.
young then, but so I was driving like after practice, you put them on, and then I was driving around town, getting back to my house and stuff. And everybody's looking at me. I was like, what are they looking at? But then all these cans in the back, like ding 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 ding. I don't know, I get a little laugh, but um, yeah, I don't know. Yeah, other things. Like when I was young too, like my tie was cut off,
Mm.
my buttons on my shirts were taken off after a game. socks, holes in the socks, so you put them on and then your feet just goes right through. Just little, um, what's the name? The hot stuff you put like to warm up your muscles,
Yep.
right? So you put some in the underwear, right? So then you put your underwear on and then it just burns. So it's just like little stuff, but
It,
yeah,
it's
good laughs.
little team character building things that you remember more than some games probably.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. And
Uh,
I think like the season is like you do a lot of the same thing over and over,
mhm.
right? So I think get a little laughs here and there. It's always good.
What's it like being a hockey dad now?
Uh, it's good.
Yeah.
I'm still learning, I guess. This, like you're used to play with men and being, practice with men's and like, so when you go and coach a 6-year-old, right? You're like find that fine line between trying to teach him, but um, make sure they have fun, make sure they're enjoying the time out, right? And um, my son doesn't want to hear anything I have to say. He's trying to play goalie once in a while, and then trying to help him out. It's like, don't, I know, don't talk to me, don't talk. What do you mean? Like, just trying to help you, buddy. Like,
Uh,
oh boy, yeah,
the shoe's on the other foot now. So
yeah,
your father was a big influence to you, and now you get to be an influence to your kids as well.
yeah, yeah. He was. Yeah, my dad was awesome. He was never too pushy into hockey or hockey school and stuff, and made me play other sports in the summers um, until the day he passed away. We always talk hockey and yeah.
What's your favorite sports outside of hockey that you got to play in the summer and around with the friends?
Oh, when I was younger, I played like some baseball and soccer, but I love all sports. I love like beach volleyball, tennis. I love playing tennis too. Um, we played softball a few summers with friends back home. Um, I think hockey's still my best, right?
Mhm.
Like flag football is fun, basketball, whatever. I feel like love it all. Love sports.
Well, it's important to be a multi-sport athlete. We've got kids that are, trying to emulate you every day. What advice do you give to the kids that are playing minor hockey and having aspirations to begin their journey in the Quebec Maritime Junior Hockey League?
Yeah. I don't know. To me, it's like don't need to think about like so much in the future. Like where you see yourself into 5 years, right? Like I think just focus on the day today, and try your best. Try your best at practice. Try your best in your games, whatever it is, and enjoy, have fun. Like I feel like sometimes when you look too far ahead, you forget about enjoying the present, right? And so those are some of the best memories kids will have, playing minor hockey and midget or junior, right? So um, you can, yeah, don't be stressed about the future. Just enjoy and try your best.
Well, the future for you is to stop in the Hall of Fame for the Q and keeping up your work with Minnesota as well. It's what's it like being now involved in the hockey ops with Minnesota with the Wild?
Yeah. Um, Bill Guerra is a GM, right? And I got to play with him in Pittsburgh, uh, and it's been awesome for me. Just like it just lets me come. I can sit with the coaches, sit with the amateur scout, the pro scouts, the player development side of things. In his office, I can always stop by and see how things are done. I was in the meetings this week for the trade deadline that's happening today, and um, no, it's good. It's good to and fun to see how things are done, and maybe try to pick like something that suits me a little better in there.
Would you ever have aspirations to move up and find yourself behind a bench in the NHL?
Not be on the bench, no, not for now, at least. Like when we play, we're gone a lot, right? Like
Mm.
we're on the road a bunch, and even when we're home, you're at practice in the morning, you nap in the afternoon, you go play at night, so you don't really see the family. So I think for now, my priority is being here for my family, my kids, and um, take them to their sports, take them to school, pick them up, and do things with them, right? And that's where my focus is for now.
That's the best priority of all, Marc-Andre. I
Yeah.
appreciate taking some time, and look forward to seeing the induction speech for you for the Hall of Fame. Congratulations again. And I know your second home, Cape Breton, is extremely, extremely proud of you.
Well, thank you, and thanks again to all the people in Cape Breton for the support over the years. You know, I could see like, sorry, I keep talking, but
Yeah, no, go for it.
like you know, playing with Pittsburgh, playing in the NHL, I could see you know like a lot of times people with the Eagles jersey on in the stands, right? Like you know, waving, cheering, and stuff. So you know, I really appreciate all the support I got.
Well, again, the smile's infectious, Marc-Andre, and you can't find anyone that'll say a bad word about you because there are no bad words about you. Your reputation precedes you, and yeah, truly are one of the best characters and one of the best representatives of the game that we've had in quite some time.
All right, thank you so much.
Again, a big thank you to Marc-Andre Fleury for taking the time to have a conversation with us here on Around the Maritimes. And I know podcasts aren't really his thing, and he's got a lot of stories, and he wants to make sure he doesn't forget anyone. So he's going to have a very interesting speech when it comes time for his Hall of Fame induction. And what an honor it is for him to go in. And congratulations again to the Flower. And again, for him to be in Cape Breton, it's not hyperbole when I talk about how when the Penguins won the Stanley Cup, the mainland was all excited for Sidney Crosby, but on Cape Breton, there was a lot of passion around Marc-Andre Fleury winning the big one. Again, thanks to Jamie Tozer for joining us as well as we break down and get set for the last weekend of the QMJHL regular season, and we get ourselves set for the playoffs and the MHL playoffs ongoing right now. Do not sleep on the Maritime Hockey League playoffs. If you have an opportunity to get out and check out some of that action, make sure you do, because there's some of your fan favorites from the last season in the Q are playing in that league right now. And you got to go support the boys, support the communities, and support the teams. And wherever you are, just make sure you cheer loud and cheer proud for all the kids that are out there playing as hard as they can in the postseason. We're so excited for the playoffs. Thanks again for joining us here on the Around the Maritimes podcast, the official English language podcast of the Quebec Maritime Junior Hockey League, presented by Carlsberg. Let's go to the playoffs.